Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of February 7, 2022. In terms of the stock market direction, I think it's going to be a down week overall, especially as we approach the middle and end of the week. Monday and Tuesday do look down, but they don't look as bad as I think the end of the week will be. In terms of the specific influences for the days of the week, I think Monday may see potentially some surprising developments that may involve either weather situations, like maybe a sudden onset of a major storm, something that involves high winds, or perhaps there's some news about accidents involving, yet again, fast-moving vehicles, especially anything that's airborne, like an airplane, a drone, a rocket, anything that flies, or an electric vehicle. So basically, there's some probability of either, again, accidents or surprising developments involving industries that, again, are related to IT, electronics, high tech, airlines, tech gadgets, and things of that nature. And the developments may be either negative or surprising, or something that perhaps was in the making, but it comes out sooner than expected. Either if services announced sooner, or if there's a deal that's announced sooner, or there's some twists and surprises that involve, again, such deals or such contracts. Then generally, starting from about the 5th of February, but then lasting through March 16th, we will have this ongoing background influence, which will actually peak sometime this week from the 7th through the 10th of February. And then again from February 23rd through February 25th, that will basically focus on things like sports, weapons, and risky activities, which could be either, of course, gambling, for example, or risky, where you can think of some daredevil type activities where people are more prone to engaging into like bungee jumping or jumping with a parachute, something that is, I guess, sort of sports related potentially, or just involves taking perhaps unnecessary risks. Similarly, if there are news about sports, again, more news may focus on sports that are somewhat more dangerous, maybe something that, again, racing, fighting, something that's more like, I guess, masculine in typical sense of that word, or something that involves kind of a more dangerous, fast-moving activities. Similarly, there may be a more stronger increase in the news on things related to like weapons and guns, like regulations, sales, value, price, etc. So we may hear about increased sales in those areas. Again, this could involve specifically like weapons sales, but also could be like sales of athletic equipment, increased focus on sales of specifically like racing fast cars, or some deals that involve like athletes or sports teams. And the value of either services or products in those areas may go up. Again, if it's a gun sales, it could be because there are some concerns about upcoming gun regulations, or if there's like a deal involving like an athlete, this person may get offered more than usual. And again, the focus may be specifically on things that are either, for example, in sports, either something that's more aggressive, more risky, more masculine, and or on things that involve high tech or are somehow airborne, like, or electric. So maybe something, again, like a drone, rocket, airspace, airspace exploration, or even like airborne weapons. And at the same time, also again, throughout this whole period, so from the 5th of February through the 16th of March, there's also increased probability of there being some surprising sudden events in those areas, such as accidents and or again, weather, that is this turbulent weather involving like high-speed winds, and or it could be some news about some damaging storms, again, due to especially wind and fire situations, and also crashes, that is like a rocket crashes, or there's sudden attack, or airplane experiences some problems. So things that are sudden and occur, I guess, unexpectedly, or come sooner than expected. Then the 7th through the 12th of February, we'll see increased focus on various governmental activities or activities by large corporations that involve regulations of things like taxes, rates, insurance, debt, loans, etc. There we may hear about some either clarifications of previously announced regulations, such as I'm thinking maybe in the US, like upcoming Fed rate hikes, some things may be clarified. Again, the specific focus is on some additional information that's being either unearthed, researched, developed, something that's very specific, kind of granular detail will be provided, and more detail is coming up, or more kind of a better research information may be coming out. And again, this may be related to some governmental regulations of, say, rates or loans and debt, insurance, etc. Or it could be a corporation that is coming up with more detailed data about whatever, maybe their, I don't know, taxes or something like that, or their plans for addressing their debt, for example. And it may come up in the form of, say, like report or data, or the issues in the report may also be specifically related to things like mining, nuclear power, some information on crime, deaths. So anything that is kind of more usually hidden or seen as kind of like underground, kind of literally like mining, if you're mining something that's underground. And or again, that has to do with like recycling or waste storage. So more reports or from companies or reports around those matters. Maybe there's some detailed information that may come out that has to do with like research on maybe some hidden, source of pollution, for example, or that, maybe some company was trying to, keep hidden some taxation fraud, for example, or if they're polluting and it kept being, swept away or whatever and hidden on the ground, that may come out at this time. And that's again the 7th through the 12th of February. And let's see, for the US, the period from the 7th to 10th of February may see some minor concerns initially about leaders, where basically they may be seen, and by leaders I mean it could be prominent persons like politicians, of course, but also heads of corporations, prominent celebrities, and those folks may either be seen as losing support, experiencing a decrease in likability, and the specific kind of a issue with that may be that the expectations necessarily, it's not that necessarily they're doing something that is objectively wrong, but rather they're not seen as being kind of caring enough, parental or maternal, soft, warm, understanding, sort of they're not being a good quote-unquote parent, or maybe their parenting skills are being put in question. And basically the expectation is that they're supposed to be like caring and sweet and nice, and they're just being businesslike and going about their business, doing things focused on what they feel like they need to do for their career or business. But the expectation is that why aren't they more kind of caring, soft, and parental, basically. And so again, there may not be anything specifically wrong with those like celebrity or prominent person doing anything, but rather there may be a mismatch between the expectations of their fans or their followers or whatever and what they're actually doing. And like I said, their parental skills may be put into questions, or they may be accused of basically dismissing somebody else's parental obligations. Again, they may be too focused on getting something done and are not sufficiently caring about that somebody else may have some obligations towards their like family, for example. So for China, the period of 7th of February through the 18th may see increased information about some financial regulations, maybe even crack down on cryptocurrencies or some other regulations that may affect currency value. Obviously, it may affect potentially negatively cryptocurrency values if such information is to come out of China during this time. 7th of February through about March 9, yet again, important period for China. There are several transits that are actually difficult. Planets that are transiting are going to make difficult aspects to the chart of China, and especially the difficult periods maybe within that time from February 9th through March 3rd. And within that time, right around February 16th, which is going to be a full moon, looks especially tense, which looks tense both globally and it's going to be kind of an eventful full moon, I predict. But also at that time, we will see difficult transits, like I said, to the chart of China that may indicate things like increased news yet again about finance, rates, currency value, perhaps announcements of economic reforms, and again would focus on things like stock market, lending, banks, again finance, debt, loan, and things of that nature. And the news will likely be stressful and upsetting. At the same time, there's increased kind of tension with partners where things are not being kind of China may not be on the same page with, its international partners, where perhaps the values or interests of or at least subjectively it may see that the values or the interests of its partners are not aligned with its own kind of goals for its own development. And at the same time, there's an increased probability of serious industrial accidents or perhaps some other shakeups like corporation shakeups or earthquake and or some other upsets or concerns that may be related to things like navy, oil, gas, water erosion, some floods, confusion, or an outbreak of some infectious disease. Other things that I looked up that happened in the past under similar transits to the chart of China, where things like a large stampede, for example, or like a plane crash or a large explosion. And again, it could be a controlled explosion, just like it could be a controlled restructuring. Maybe there's like a new large structures planned, like an airport, and space needs to be cleared out. Therefore, there's an explosion to basically remove some debris or move some whatever large amount of rock or something out of the way. And or it could be an explosion because again there's an industrial accident or something crashes, or due to maybe like some gas line or something exploding, something along those lines, like maybe a mining accident, for example, or a weapon test. Let's see, and like I said, tensions with partners, and there may be even focus on like either arms race or just mobilization of military. Again, it could be if, say, there's an earthquake and they just need to bring military to assist victims of that disaster. That is another possibility. So it doesn't have to be necessarily an aggression towards any specific area. It could be to assist with helping victims of some disaster, for example. And then again, especially around the 9th through the 19th, there may be intense like either tensions or arguments or disagreements with international partners. And those may even lead to like angry exchanges or threats, cancellations of agreements, and some strained relations. Let's see. And again, as I mentioned, Thursday, Friday of the week look kind of more difficult globally, where I think there's a greater probability that even in the early part of the week of market going down, then from the 10th, which is Friday, through the 13th for the US, there may be follow-ups or further increasing concerns about either leaders or, like I said, celebrities, prominent persons. So as you recall earlier in the week, those concerns may start where, again, those persons may be seen as maybe not caring enough. And again, not that they have to be caring, more that they're just focused on what the business they have to do, but they may be accused of not being caring enough. And now then going into the 10th through the 13th of February for the US, either those same leaders or some other kind of leaders may now be seen as, or rather be in the receiving end. At this point, those kind of initial dislikes may start turning into now even anger or attacks or arguments about their value, like how valuable their contribution is, or perhaps they're not being kind of recognized adequately for what they do, or not seen as valuable as far as like what they've achieved, and perhaps therefore there may be also arguments like if there's a race of some sort or people are about to be nominated, there might be these arguments about, okay, who is more valuable, like did they really contribute, or who is going to bring more value. But it's going to be like a much more competitive kind of race or competitive evaluation than usual, and more kind of aggressively some people's values may be either touted or it could be aggressively being kind of attacked and taken down. And again, any sort of races or competitions, or like if there's some public, debates or something like that, may become a lot more heated and competitive. And also at the same time, there's a greater probability of some either leader or, again, prominent persons, could be like a prominent athlete, for example, to experience some sort of mishap. Could be like an accident, or being in the receiving end of some rude or some angry behavior. For China, the 10th of February through the 16th, and especially the 12th and the 16th of February, may also see it again peaked kind of news about some problems related to like gas, oil, navy, floods, oil erosion, oil, gas, but also like flood, precipitation, soil erosion, again due to floods, for example, or problems that involve pharmaceuticals, chemicals. Could be like a pollution of, say, water, erosion due to, again, excessive precipitation, for example, some spike of infectious disease somewhere, and or again, this could be like a flare-up of something, an accident, fighting over, say, pollution, or arguments related to these areas, maybe a standoff involving like a navy, or an accident involving chemicals. And these accidents and disagreements may involve also price fluctuations of the related products. So at this point, the price or price of these products may rise again if there's arguments about, I don't know, some chemical, for example, or medicine, or even oil and gas. It may affect prices of those related products, and they may go up higher than usual because of that, and or there may be some upsetting or difficult situations involving transportation of these products and delivery of these services. So for example, transportation of oil prices may suddenly, again, that's for China, suddenly the fees may be higher there, or the cost of that may be higher. Again, could be due to weather, for example, some problems with like floods or whatever, and that may impact, for example, transportation of, again, some medicine, or transportation of chemical, or transportation of oil, for example. Or there's some increased costs in, like, regarding some quarantine. If, again, like, there's a flare-up of some infectious disease, some area may be quarantined, and there are obviously associated costs with that, or costs of like Navy equipment, or undersea cable repairs, or cleanup activities involving like oil or chemical. But those costs at this time may end up being higher than expected, and there may be arguments about basically who's responsible for the cleanup, who's responsible for the quarantine costs, for like if the undersea cable is somehow damaged, who should basically pay for that, and things like that. And so like I said, somewhat difficult time, especially around the 16th and I guess 12th of February as well. And 16th full moon that's coming up is going to be somewhat difficult globally as well. So now let's take a few moments to kind of look at the future upcoming events for the next few months. What are some of the key dates to focus on? Some of the key dates are 2nd of March, 4th of April, even from late March to maybe mid-April, and then around late July and early August, especially around the 1st of August. So those times may be seeing somewhat more difficult escalations of various problems. Around the 2nd of March, which happens to be a new moon, we will have Venus and Mars and Pluto conjuncting in Capricorn on top of like US Pluto, which is definitely significant in terms of the US going through the Pluto return. So there might be some serious important announcements regarding things like banks, rates, loans, and some governmental regulations around those areas, as well as maybe some tax reforms or some information that may affect like tax credits. And also at the same time, we will have, right on the same day, exact conjunction of Mercury and Saturn, yet again, some perhaps difficulties or communication of difficult information, and it may also affect like social media platforms or media companies or transportation communication areas in general, and there may be either some difficulties or delays. So definitely like tense time, and of course just globally, whenever you have Mars and Pluto in difficult aspects, such as again will be on the 2nd of March, this itself is often indicative of things like mass protests, violent acts, or explosions. Again, just tempers rise, but also could be an accident, an earthquake certainly. And so definitely a difficult time with that being a new moon. The subsequent 2 weeks after that may also be somewhat difficult, and whatever may start right around the 2nd of March may culminate 2 weeks later when there's a full moon. And then the second sort of difficult time period, which will be from late March into early, especially April, and then maybe even through mid-April, will be this conjunction of Jupiter with Neptune in Pisces. And then also right at the same time, right around the 4th, we will also have difficult transits between, of course, Saturn and Mars and moon nodes. And basically there is going to be definitely a strong probability of either some really major, say, flooding or major confusing situation where maybe there's fog and there's an accident, like maritime accident, because just the ships don't see each other, a major oil spill, a major just confusing news. For example, in the past, again, one of the situations involved there being this announcement, some broadcast of some impending attack or something like that, that actually was just made in error, but it stayed up for, I guess, like 40 minutes or so before it got canceled. So something that's very confusing, and it could involve something that's, again, either audible or visual signal or lack of that, like I said. So if somebody's trying to communicate and things are not quite clear, it may lead to a confusing situation, an accident, again, a fog, a maritime accident, or communication that is misleading. And again, it could be just by accident, just somebody pressed, the wrong button or gave the wrong signal, but it may be misinterpreted. And unfortunately, because of also difficult transits between like nodes, Saturn and Mars at the same time, it could potentially lead to, again, an accident, or again, maybe if there's an accident, for example, like a plane crash, at the same time, due to bad weather, like I said, fog or strong waves or winds or whatever, not winds, more so precipitation, there may be, difficulty finding and assisting, victims of such a crash. So again, it could be a large earthquake, could be a large major storm, it could be like a major flooding situation, or it could be a situation that involves a lot of confusion and kind of a big lie, so to speak, because we have Jupiter big, and Neptune could be a big lie or could be a big illusion. Vice versa, on the positive side, it could also be this really major fascination with something that's like very inspiring, Neptune, or something that's like a dream where everybody's really hoping for this really big, wonderful thing, which again may not be just equally true, just like something could be a lie. The dream may also not come true, but there is this big, big hope, maybe a movement of some sort, like I don't know, like an almost religious kind of a movement where people are hoping for something or they're united by one belief. And again, it could be some movement that spans like borders or is really wide in reach. And it could be an online movement, could be multiple groups. So for example, if there's like book comes out that is like this sci-fi or some magical world that's portrayed in it, people may become like big fans of it, or a movie or a singer or some music, and suddenly people are really kind of big into that, and you have this really cult kind of following, and people are gathering to, like, again, because they really love this, I don't know, some trilogy or something, like makes me think of like Tolkien, kind of something that's really like fantastic, but this avatar, some beautiful world. Or it could be, again, a dream, could be a religious thing, but doesn't have to be based in actual religion, could be just something like a religious like movement following. And again, it could be related to art event, for example, like a big music concert, but it's going to be much bigger than usual. And again, it could be due to like reach online. Maybe it's a concert, but people can join from, their computers. Therefore, obviously, you have a lot larger audience. But something less like a big, big movement, reaches across like wide distances, even across borders, like large movements of course, anything to do with Neptune. So large, obviously, it's Jupiter with expansion that goes kind of like this large gaseous planet that expands and expands without borders, but also Neptune has to do with things like water, so expansion of water, expansion of things that are Neptunian in nature, so maybe more ships stuck at sea, more oil flowing, be it due to the spill or just because there's a large number of oil tankers that can't maybe dock or something like that. Or it could be accumulation of people that, again, like I said, in one area that are inspired by the same song or movie or whatever their belief is, and they're gathered together through that. But again, the feel of it is more like they're really fascinated with something. Again, they might be afraid of something that could be like a lie, but it's really not going to be as bad as they perhaps think, or vice versa. They think something is really amazing, And maybe others will be looking at it and like, why is it a big deal? Like, who cares about the book or whatever? But to them, it will be very, very important. So that's the energy of like late March through early to even mid-April. And again, at this time, prices of like oil and gas and some pharmaceuticals and chemicals may peak even for the year. And at the same time, due to the accumulation of inventory, this is where the price may also reverse after this peak is reached, because there will be just too much inventory, and perhaps after that demand will drop. Let's see. And then, of course, another time period that I just mentioned, late July into early August, especially around August 1st globally. It is a difficult time period, one of the more difficult times of the year, especially from like July 25th through August 13th. Yet again, possible major industrial disaster, an earthquake, maybe involving like an airplane crash or some other kind of like electric power station going down, or just strong winds, like a hurricane, for example. And of course, that's a hurricane season in the US. But in the past, during these times, notable events involved specifically really, really high winds, like maybe a super like F5 tornado, major storms. And at this time, the focus may not be as much on precipitation, because by then Jupiter will already be transiting through Aries. Of course, Neptune will still be in Pisces, but still the focus may be on that being indeed a lot of heat and really, really strong winds. And things could be suddenly collapsing, like maybe really strong wind bringing something down. But again, things may occur really fast, and there may also be problems with financial markets, where things that are like surprising, shocking, and some things like some trading exchange, a company or something that maybe relates to like cryptocurrencies and finance may not accidentally, but rather quickly close, abruptly shut its service, or there'll be a sudden service disruptions, electricity disruptions, or a sudden power surge that may lead to like an explosion, maybe really major fires, again, potentially due to these high winds. And also, again, assets that are related to like digital areas. So maybe anything that's like traded online, or online retailers, cryptocurrencies. There's really strong volatility, and some asset may suddenly lose value. And again, of course, go back, but things kind of look difficult at this time for it to recover immediately. Same with any kind of companies that are related to like airlines, batteries, electric vehicles. There may be, again, some news about either crashes, accidents, or some supply problems. And again, something that's like has a sudden onset, maybe again, if there's a big like hurricane or something like that, or tornado, then obviously it may affect production or delivery of supplies in those areas. So there again, businesses may experience some problems, and again, sudden losses, sudden drop in value, and or financial problems. At the same time, exact same time, this July-August time, there may be some floods in China, and also problems related to finance, because again, we will have this conjunction of Mars, Uranus, I believe, North Node in Taurus, and will be exactly opposing Venus in Scorpio, the horoscope of China, and this indicates some sudden financial problems, either financial losses, corporate currency regulations, sudden announcements of, say, bankruptcies, or just sudden even financial reforms or changes in the currency value. But again, things may be kind of occurring a lot faster. And again, both Mars lacks speed, and of course, Uranus is the planet of these unpredictable sudden turnarounds. Things may be shut down one day, reopen the next day. Some project suddenly starts and then abruptly shuts down. Things that are really unpredictable in nature, and again, more likely because of course, influence of Taurus, where it's going to be occurring, related to, again, banks, loans, rates, financial regulations, debt, even taxes and things of that nature. So again, some industrial disasters, earthquakes, weather problems, but also especially areas that are related to like currencies, debt, loans, mortgages, banks in general may be affected, and there may be really sudden, and also construction, all of those actually fall under Taurus, where there might be some sudden big problems, and both globally but also specifically for China at the same time. So yeah, definitely some times that maybe I would avoid either traveling or kind of avoid going to places where are maybe earthquake prone, and just kind of also playing it safe in the markets to be on alert there. So I hope you found this useful, and come back and check me out next week. Until then, guys, have a fantastic week. Bye.